Sunday morning, November 27th here in southern Ontario, Canada. So there's a video going around. I've seen it on TikTok and on a number of channels, Facebook and everything. It's Brendan Miller, the lead convoy lawyer, addressing Chrystia Freeland, our Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, and sits on the board of directors at the World Economic Forum. Let me just say, step back a second and say, I think the convoy lawyers should be called the people's lawyers. But that aside, Brendan Miller said to her, "You'd agree, it is if it turned out that those flags were linked to your government, that would look really bad on our international reputation, wouldn't it?" Freeland said, well, based on, and then she just went silent and kind of looked about for like about that long. Miller just walked away, the lawyer. The screen cuts to the commissioner, and he's sitting there looking at her, and she's just saying nothing. So he bails her out. He says, well, okay, our next witness will be, and Freeland sighs through her nose like with a defeated look on her face. I want to address those 4 flags again, just to clarify it. There were 2 rebel flags and 2 Nazi flags seen in Ottawa, all on the first day that the convoy was officially there. Let me address the 2 Nazi flags first. And there's video footage of everything I'm saying here. The first flag was an elderly European gentleman who had immigrated to Canada, a Canadian citizen now. He'd shown up with a Canadian flag and he'd painted a Nazi symbol on it. And again, the footage shows, some fellow protesters came up and said, oh, dude, that's maybe not a good idea, right? That could be misconstrued. And he explained, well, I see Nazi Canada going towards Nazi. And they said, well, yeah, but and he's like, well, you're right. I guess that's a bad idea. And he folded the flag up and placed it in a trash can. The second Nazi flag was hung on a balcony on the second story on a building that is never accessible to the public. There are parliamentary police, PPS, Parliamentary Police Service. They're the they only have jurisdiction of the parliamentary buildings and what is termed as their grounds. That balcony is not open was not and is not open, accessible to the public, period. And there's some, in the periphery of one of the videos, who is that guy? Oh, it's Trudeau's personal photographer. That could have been a coincidence. The 2 rebel flags, first day. One was a guy walked out into the protest, into the, the crowd on the street carrying a rebel flag. Totally dark glasses, masked up, hood, big gloves, all of his gear, if you look at it. I mean, he just bought it at Canadian Tire. You know what I mean? He's not a working schmuck like me. That gear was, he had taken the tags off. And when confronted by the crowd, he and the flag disappeared, never to be seen again. The second rebel flag seen that day was on the back of a pickup truck. Clear footage of it. It was even brought up at the inquiry into the Emergencies Act. The license plate is clearly legible. It has a crown in the middle between the 2 3x3 digits on the license plate. So it's a government plate. And who's it registered to? A Liberal Party member. Irony. And yet they keep going on and on about those all those hateful flags. Well, there they are, described. Every one of them is accounted for. And in summation, I'd just like to say that if you asked 10 Canadians what their interpretation of a rebel flag as a Canadian in Canada means, you'd get 10 different answers. And probably half of us Canadians couldn't actually define quite properly what the rebel flag means in the United States. you know, with the North, the South, and the Civil War and everything, especially the younger people. If I was asked what my first thought of the rebel flag is, you know, whimsically, I'd say, well, it's the Dukes of Hazzard and Daisy Dukes, as the character on the Dukes of Hazzard, Daisy Duke, would wear these short cut-off jeans. And to this day, those short cut-off jeans are often referred to as Daisy Dukes. And the rebel flag was on the side of the car, and I think it was called the Rebel or something. So there's those 4 flags explained, and yet you still hear people going on about all those hateful flags. Yeah, well, back to Brendan Miller in absolute summation here. You'd agree if it turned out those flags were linked to your government, that would look really bad on our international reputation, wouldn't it? That's a polite way of saying you fiends are caught out with your filth. And just because it's not worth an entire video, I saw a clip of Trudeau testifying, and his line was, trucks used as potential weapons. Well, there's his word spin, isn't it? I mean, I guess this chair is a potential weapon. We saw trucks used as potential weapons. Oh man, how do we get rid of this outfit? I don't know.